Detective Williams calls Tom back to the station house, and this time they grill him about his story.
You went up to meet a gentleman to pay cash for this blade. Yes.
We pressed him hard about what had happened, and over every little detail, so discrepancies started cropping up in stories.
Tom's original story was that he had been driving the Chevrolet Impala. Later, when he talks to detectives, he tells them that he was driving his record the evening that Kathy disappeared.
I'd asked Tom, I said I wanted to take a look at his car. He said, that'd be fine. Later on, he said, I've sold the car. I said, who'd you sell it to? So he gave me a long story about he went to another auto salvage yard, saw a couple guys out front, sold it to them for a minimal amount of money.
Then he revealed something even more disturbing.
We asked him if he owned any firearms at all. He said he had a gun. It was a single-shot 22 rifle that was sawed off. Guns were part of the business. Plus, he had an all-cash business, too, which made him susceptible to robberies. He had to keep his gun there for his personal defense.
But now Tom claims that his 22 is gone.
He was stolen or sold, but he didn't have it anymore. It wasn't his possession.
It's all just a bit too suspicious. And as detectives drill down into specifics,
So you were the last one to see your daughter alive.
Tom starts getting downright unfriendly.
So finally, it was time to act. We hit him hard, saying, okay, Tom, you killed your daughter. Why'd you kill your daughter?
You're wrong here, officer. I did not do this.
So yes, you did, Tom. You killed her. We know you did it.
No, I did not do it.
He got mad, disgusted, and stormed out. And actually walked home.
With no clear motive for why Tom Bonney would kill his own child, no hard evidence, no murder weapon, and no confession, there's little police can do. Detectives decide to pay another visit to the Bonnies' home while Tom is at work. They want to find out more about what makes him tick. And they figured it'd be best to talk to his wife and kids when he's not there.
The anger translated into direct physical abuse of your mother.
Tom's family gives them an earful.
Tom had been abusive. He had not been a model father, quite the contrary. He had not been a model husband, quite the contrary.
But it's the kids who Detective Williams is now most concerned about. Especially Kathy's younger sister, 15-year-old Susan.
Susan was going to become the role of the new Kathy in the house. She was concerned for her own safety because she woke up one night and her father was standing above the bed with a knife.
If they don't act fast, police are worried that they might just find another body in the swamp.
Social services deemed it an emergency to remove the children from the house, and they did.
For Tom, it's a devastating blow.
Family was extraordinarily important to him. He took great pride in having a family, being able to support his family and have his family intact was perhaps as important as anything in his life.
Trying to determine if that is, in fact, the
Detective Williams senses an opportunity. Perhaps now he can get Tom to cooperate more fully with his investigation.
I told him finding the car was important. His children were gone, his family was broken up again. I said, if you help me get the car back, I'll get your kids back.
Finally, on December 10th, 20 days after Kathy's murder, Detective Williams gets a call from Tom Bonney.
What? And he said, I found the car. I said, good. Where is it? He wouldn't tell me where it was. In the background, I heard someone talking. I said, give me the phone to whoever's talking. It ended up being a lady at a service station, service garage. I told her who I was, told her to not let the car go.
Police rush over to the service station where the call came from.
Before law enforcement arrive, Tom leaves.
They don't get Tom, but at least they have his Chevy Impala. It doesn't take long before they realize why Tom had kept the car out of their hands.
You have bloodstains on the top of the ceiling. You have bloodstains in the trunk. Bloodstains on the handle.
Tests confirm that the blood in the car is Kathy Bonney's. Police still can't find the murder weapon, but it seems they've now found the murder location.
It would appear as though that maybe she was shot once in the car and then taken from the car and shot numerous times thereafter.
Now detectives understand why they only found a relatively small amount of blood out in the Great Dismal Swamp. Because the majority of his daughter's blood was spilled inside Tom Bonney's car.
We knew right away that we had our man. So we went ahead and got some warrants, and then the bulletin was put out nationwide to go look for him.
Tom is nowhere to be found, and police worry he has slipped through their fingers. Even his wife Dorothy hasn't a clue where her husband has gone.
She was kind of lost and lonely and just distraught.
What I'd like to do is my partner and I would like to...
Meanwhile, police locate Tom's other vehicle, his wrecker, and it solves another nagging question.
Tom had sold the wrecker to an individual, and apparently he was having problems with the fuel lines, with the gas. And so the man had to remove the gas tank to empty the gas that was in it out. And when he removed the tank, he heard a rattling in the tank, and he was able to recover, I believe, 27 shell casings, 22 caliber shell casings from the tank of Tom's truck.
As the weeks pass, with no sign of Tom Bonney, it's beginning to look like he just might get away with murder.
Lordy.
Coming up, a killer confesses, and a madman is revealed.
He idolized her, and then he felt betrayed. So Hitman strikes out in revenge.
I used to pre-rinse dishes because my old detergent didn't actually get them clean. But new Cascade Platinum Plus has me doing dishes differently.
Scrub, soak, nope.
I just scrape, load, and I'm done.
Only Platinum Plus is bigger, with double the Dawn grease fighting power and double the scrubbing power. So you can load this and get this. I'm not the type to break the dish rolls. Or am I? Scrape, load, done. New Cascade Platinum Plus. Dare to dish differently.
Over 6 weeks have passed since Tom Bonney fled Chesapeake, Virginia, just moments before facing arrest for the murder of his daughter. His luck runs out when 700 miles away, Indianapolis police officer Julie Schiff spots a suspicious vehicle.
He was parked in a very seedy area where he shouldn't have been.
She ran the registration on the car, and it came back with a hit that Tom was wanted.
When Officer Schiff returns to Tom's vehicle, she's got her pistol drawn.
Freeze! Get your hands out of the car where I can see them.
He said he didn't understand why he was being handcuffed, and she told him that he was under arrest for murder. He said, well, I've never murdered anyone.
Tom Bonney is charged with the murder of 19-year-old Kathy, his own daughter.
So again, it would bode well for you to go get it cut clean right now.
Detectives confront Tom with the evidence.
Tom, we have more evidence against you. You know what to do with it.
The bloodstains in his car, the shell casings in his record, and his inconsistent story about the man in the Chevy Blazer. And slowly, through a haze of half-truths, half-lies, and everything in between, Tom begins to fess up.
And Tom said that he made up a story about the Blazer.
According to Tom, he and Kathy went for a drive that evening in his Impala to talk in private. He had just discovered that deeply disturbing letter in her diary.
He drove down to Canal Bank just to have a private place to talk to her, a quiet place where no one could interfere.
There, he confronted Kathy with the sexually explicit letter she wrote to her lover, John Hoskins.
That's my personal property. You can't go through my stuff.
And they got to arguing. In Tom's words, Kathy began hooping and hollering. And something just happened, and it was an accident, is what Tom said.
No!
He wouldn't give a reason, other than the fact he was mad, she was mad, and it was her fault. She called it, she loaded the gun.
It's a start, but detectives can tell that Tom is far from telling the whole truth and nothing but. The notion that he shot her in self-defense doesn't square with Kathy's overkill.
We said, okay, the gun went off accidentally. Why'd you shoot her 27 times? He said he didn't remember.
That's right. I'm shot her one time with her 27 times. How do you not remember shooting somebody 27 times?
To detectives, it's clear this was no accident.
The weapon was a 9-shot Western-style 22 caliber revolver. This is not an automatic. This is cylinder gun, a wheel gun, where you have to actually load each individual bullet by hand. It takes a lot of work to do it. More especially, it takes a lot of work to do it in the dark. When you have to do it 3 times, it takes a whole lot of work to do it in the dark. And that's what he had to do that night.
Not only was Tom reloading his weapon in the pitch dark, he was also collecting his shell casings. Doesn't sound like the actions of a guy who just snapped.
Nope.
Based on the evidence, detectives see a different chain of events.
We were able to determine she was obviously sitting in the passenger car. They got into an argument. He confronted her. Most likely showed her the letter.
Why were you looking through my stuff?
Because he became crying, mad, angry.
I'm an adult. I can write what
No.
And eventually, I would imagine he just pulled the gun up and says, you know, you can't go on like this.
I love him, Dad. Dad, stop.
The first shot looked like it was in the head. After that, with blood on her hand, she touched the door handle to get out of the car.
According to the blood evidence, detectives think Kathy managed to stumble out of the car and into the night. But Tom wasn't finished.
Stop, please. Stop.
He got out, came around, finished the job, drove her over to the side of the canal bank, started to disrobe her, cut the clothes off, think about what he was doing, shooting, reloading the gun over and over and over again.
I don't remember that. So I just remember.
The problem is, Tom claims he doesn't remember anything that happened after their initial struggle in the car.
He said, I did that? I don't remember that. I did. Well, I must have done it. I didn't know I did that. I cut her clothes off. Well, if you found them, that's what it is.
Detectives assume he's just hedging, but to his defense attorneys, Tom's selective amnesia suggests something else. They think Tom may have gone temporarily insane.
Can we save his life? Can we convince the jury this was done in a fit of passion, rage, so that for this briefest period of time he was not a human being and therefore should not be judged by the standards of a human being? Could we do that? And then we get a phone call from Dr. Dell, PhD psychologist, and he tells us, I think I know what's going on with your client.
Dr. Dell believes Tom suffers from a severe mental disorder that prevents him from discerning right from wrong.
He speaks to you. He tells you you should do.
Paul Dale read the newspaper accounts of what had happened and made a preliminary diagnosis that Tom Bonney suffered from multiple personalities.
The psychologist puts Tom under hypnosis and questions him, videotaping his sessions. According to his lawyers, the tapes reveal that there are actually 10 personalities living inside Tom Bonney.
I'm Damien.
Dr. Dell's diagnosis was that Tom had an emotional experience when he was young, and as a protective mechanism, your personality gives you another personality within the same body to help you bear this trauma.
One of the personalities in particular appears to be constantly enraged and prone to extraordinary violence.
Listen to me this time.
The tapes revealed to Dr. Dell that there was a personality called Hitman, and that Hitman is the one that murdered Kathy. Kathy was close to Tom. He idolized her, and then he felt betrayed. So Hitman strikes out in revenge for the betrayal.
Prosecutors view the whole multiple personality theory as just another one of Tom's scams.
Tom Bonney was very manipulative. He had to be in control. He had to manipulate people, including the detectives if he could, including his family.
On October 17th, 1988, nearly a year after Kathy's murder, the trial begins. The defense argues that Tom cannot be held responsible for the actions of his psychotic alter ego, Hitman.
One of the symptoms of multiple personality is episodes of amnesia. We had testimony, we had witnesses from years way before this tragedy that Tom was extremely forgetful about whole episodes, whole days, whole hours. In other words, we had evidence of amnesia. Then there would be intense, sudden mood swings. So, did he have multiple personality?
I believe that Paul Dale had created this diagnosis that Tom Bonney was not multiple personalities.
That was up for the jury to determine.
After a 39-day trial and 1 day of deliberations, the jury returns with its verdict. Tom Bonney is found guilty of first-degree murder of his daughter, Kathy.
I don't know whether the jury believed that Tom Bonney suffered from multiple personalities or not, but I do believe that, I know that the jury believed that he knew and understood the nature and consequences of his action, and therefore was not insane.
The jury members were mostly firm people. Then they said, we knew he was crazy.
Me.
You know, you look at him, of course he's crazy. We understood. We understood the mental illness. We understood it all. But you know, we're farm people. You got a mad dog, you put him down.
Bonney is sentenced to death, but his sentence is later reduced to life in prison without parole. Did Tom Bonney willfully kill his daughter in cold blood? Or was he a deeply troubled man, obeying the orders of an alternate personality? We will probably never know the truth, but at least Tom Bonney will never kill again.
Wow, poor lady.
How long did the close?
I put them on for an hour.
Some mornings call for a breakfast taco from Dunkin'. Scrambled eggs, cheddar cheese, fire roasted corn, and lime crema to get you going. Bacon. But some mornings call for 2 breakfast tacos. Oh yeah, this is definitely going to be a 2 taco morning.
Georgia River starts coughing up bodies.
He was wrapped in a sleeping bag, draped in chains with bricks.
They pulled another body of a female.
The cops have to wonder, is it a serial killer at work, or is it a case of bad blood?
Fred White was the main soul of this.
And betrayal.
Carl heard through the grapevine. Liddy's running him out.
That sets in motion a deadly, swampy chain reaction.
I'm about to. Okay.
The Flint River is a winding sea
waterway
that heads south from Atlanta, twisting and turning through the weeds and overhanging trees.
The Flint River is very nasty. It's not really a place you would want to go. It's muddy, it's murky water, it's a more swampy area.
5 days before Christmas in 1977, 2 duck hunters are mucking their way down to the river's edge from the Flint River Bridge, which marks the border between Fayette and Clayton counties. But instead of ducks, they find something utterly horrific. The badly decomposing remains of a woman.
The duck hunters saw it and they thought that it was a body. And they called the sheriff's office.
Police from both Fayette and Clayton counties arrived at the scene.
The first body that was located, they could tell had been in the water for quite some time just because of the decomposition.
The woman is nude. A white plastic bag encloses her head, and she's tied to cinder blocks. But this unfortunate soul didn't die by drowning. She's got 2 gunshots to the head. Looks like a .38 caliber. As crime scene investigators search for clues, Fayette County Sheriff Randall Johnson watches from the ridge.
While they were looking at the scene, Sheriff Johnson noticed that there was something else out in the water.
There's something red down there just past that lock. Go down there and check it out, see what it is.
Turns out it's a sleeping bag, and it's not empty.
they pulled another body of a female.
It's a fresh body.
This corpse, located on the Fayette County side of the river, is not nearly as decomposed as the first. Looks like she's only been in the water a few days at most. And there's something else.
When she was discovered, it was discovered that her pants, the crotch area, had been cut out.
A rape kit would have done no good for she was in the river.
She's been shot 3 times, in the abdomen, leg, and the back of the head. Like the first body, a .38 caliber appears to be the likely murder weapon. And she's also tied to a cinder block. The county sheriffs quickly realized
Go away for your own date.
Sinister. A serial killer. They agree to assign the homicides according to their jurisdictions.
They cooperated very well together, and so everything that was in Clayton County case file was in Fayette County's case file.
The 2-month-old corpse doesn't hold many clues for Clayton County cops.
Because of the decomposition, the skin slippage, not really able to get fingerprints.
Their only hope is to try and match dental impressions with missing persons reports. Meanwhile, Fayette County police have an easier time identifying the other victim. The coroner confirms that she was killed 2 or 3 days ago, and her face is clearly visible.
Had a missing persons complaint that had been filed, so they knew pretty quick that it was Lydia.
31-year-old Lydia Evans was a divorced mother of 4 who lived with a 28-year-old firefighter named Joe Cleveland.
Whoa, yeah.
Joe was known to hang out with some shady characters, criminals, and drug dealers. Still, no one believes that Joe would ever harm Lydia. Trouble is, detectives can't find him. Lydia's family tells police that around December 17th, she and Joe had planned to head out of town.
They were going on a camping trip that weekend. They were all going to go to Panama City for a vacation.
And that's the last anyone heard from them. A couple weeks later, matching dental records to missing person reports, Clayton County police score a hit on their own Jane Doe. Detectives reach out to the person who reported Betty Jo Eflin missing, her daughter Linda.
Hello?
They told me it was my mother, and that they were sorry, and that they would find who did it and make sure that they were punished.
45-year-old Betty Jo Eflin hailed from Fort Worth, Texas, but her job in the trucking industry brought her to Georgia earlier that year.
My mother was a free spirit. She was the life of the party. She loved hard and a lot, and you couldn't help but love her back.
The crowd Betty Jo fell in with wasn't exactly saintly.
Got her involved in things she got involved in. Drugs, marijuana, coke.
During that long, hot summer of '77, the sassy Texan attracted the attention of one man in particular, Fred Wyatt.
Fred was a career criminal. He was a truck driver, and that was a legitimate business, but he used that to haul marijuana, and that was where he was making his money.
She, found Fred to be kind of excited because he had that bad boy reputation. Fred had a spark for her, so they ended up getting together.
As her daughter Linda tells detectives, Fred wasn't the healthiest choice for Betty Jo. Linda knows this because her mom brought Fred to visit her in Texas 4 months ago.
My gut told me there's something wrong with this man. He was hardened. His eyes were dead.
Even worse, it looked to Linda like Fred was abusive.
She had bruises on her arm, and she told me she had fallen.
How did that happen? You just fell up against the...
Well, you don't get fingerprint bruises from falling.
And to top it all off,
Fred,
but less than 2 months after they said their vows, Linda got a troubling phone call from Fred, who claimed he'd just returned home after a long haul in his rig. He said Betty Jo was missing.
He found that the house had been disturbed. There was things knocked over, so he feared that something bad had taken place and had happened to Betty Jo.
He called and said she wasn't there and wanted to know if she'd come home, and I said no.
At first, folks wondered if Betty Jo had finally seen the light and run off. Still, Linda couldn't help but worry.
And I kept calling and calling, could not get an answer. I went to the family and I said, something's wrong. Finally, after 2.5 weeks, I called and found a missing person.
Now, despite his apparent distress, Linda is convinced Fred had something to do with her mother ending up dead in the Flint River.
He was the only one that, in my mind, that could have done anything to her. You could tell she cared about him, but you could tell she was fearful of him too.
When Clayton County police check out Fred's extensive criminal record, they realize they've got a hot person of interest.
And Wyatt.
They go looking for him at the couple's home, but there's no answer. Fred Wyatt has vanished. 2 women are murdered, and no trace of their significant others. Seems like the honeymoon is over. Coming up, what happens when a critical clue is overlooked?
They had to exhume his body later. It should have been obvious. I hate to second guess other law enforcement, but they just missed it.
In a minute, I go check.
Interesting piece. Let me bring in my expert.
So many scratches.
You're the love of mine.
Such a rich history. This won't do well at auction, but at AT&T, it's worth a brand new Samsung Galaxy S23.
Wait, really? What about this?
AT&T's deal is back. Everyone gets a free new Samsung Galaxy S23 with the Galaxy phone trade-in. Any year, any condition.
The Hyundai Tucson comes with America's best warranty. It's like a mental vacation from worry that no other brand offers. Free from worry on ski trips, at the beach, don't get too sandy now, or way out in wherever. Take a mental vacation, or a vacation in the Hyundai Tucson, and leave those worries behind. The Hyundai Tucson, with America's best warranty.
We live our lives on our home's fabrics, and though we come and go, our odors stay. It's called odor transfer. Left untreated, those odors get trapped inside fabrics and then really smells into your air. Ew. You need new Febreze Fabric Refresher. Its new formula is proven to deliver longer-lasting odor-fighting power so you can enjoy longer-lasting freshness, even hours after spraying. The more everyone sprays, the fresher your whole home stays. New Febreze Fabric Refresher.
The holiday season of 1977 turns bleak when Georgia police find 2 women shot to death and dumped in the murky shallows of the Flint River. Betty Jo Eflin was killed first, 2 months before Liddy Evans. Now detectives want to talk to the men in their lives, but they can't find them. Though not for long. It's soon crystal clear why Betty Jo's husband, Fred Wyatt, can't be reached. He's dead, too. Apparently, sometime in November, soon after Fred called Betty Jo's daughter looking for his wife, he was killed in a car accident with a train.
I found it very strange, and all of a sudden he'd be dead too.
Detectives also think it's odd. Fred had a long rap sheet for armed robbery, theft, and drug dealing, so he was a natural person of interest. Could he have murdered Betty Jo and then committed suicide? According to the police report, Fred's car hit a moving train head-on. But then investigators pick up on something peculiar in photos of the accident.
He slumped over between the gear shifter and the dashboard. Fred was a rather large man, so the way the seat was positioned, he would have not fit behind the steering wheel.
You can look at the pictures and tell that train wreck didn't kill him. It was obvious it would not have been a fatality.
Detectives conclude that Fred's body was moved to the driver's seat after the collision.
After the other murders, they decided they better go back and take a better look at Fred's case.
They went back and dug Fred back up.
And what do you know? It appears Fred's got a far more conspicuous cause of death. A .22 caliber bullet hole in his left ear.
I hate to second guess other law enforcement, but they just missed it.
Not only was Fred Wyatt murdered, it looks like his killer went to great lengths to try and hide it by staging the accident with the train. Now police have 3 bodies on their hands, and still no answers. Until a new detail about Fred's death raises a red flag. 16 days after his death, he had over $13,000 in insurance payouts. Not to his wife Betty Jo, who was already dead, but to a woman named Marie Jackson Wyatt. Police learned that Marie was Fred's girlfriend.
Hey, honey.
Before he married Betty Jo.
She called herself his wife, but they never married. She even took his name.
I like this here.
He's kind of young.
46-year-old Marie lived with Fred for 4 years in a small trailer. She admits to police she was the beneficiary of Fred's life insurance. They'd both taken out policies years ago, so it was only fair she collect. After all, she felt he owed her for what he did to her. Marie tells detectives Fred started seeing another woman earlier that summer, who they now know was Betty Jo, while he was still living with her.
Somehow, Marie suspected Fred, because he wasn't at home, with her. He was living a double life. She couldn't believe that Fred had, in her eyes, betrayed her that way. And she felt used by Fred.
In July, Fred left her for the attractive Texan. Marie was crushed and angry, especially when she heard they got married.
He did for Betty Jo what he never did for Marie. He married Betty Jo.
To detectives, a scorned woman clearly has a motive for getting rid of both Fred and Betty Jo. But Marie insists she had nothing to do with killing either of them. Besides, she claims there's a long list of people who wanted Fred Wyatt dead. And she's right. As they look into Fred's past, Clayton County police find a whole passel of shady character.
He was a drug dealer. He was also a truck driver. He would haul produce and things like that, but he'd also haul marijuana.
From what they hear, the best person to ask about Fred's illegal business is his nephew, 27-year-old Carl Patton.
When people owed Fred money for drugs, Carl would be the enforcer.
Yo, the money, man. We can do this easy way, the hard way.
And Fred created this image of him. In fact, Fred spread the rumor that Carl was part of the Dixie Mafia.
The Dixie Mafia was a collection of people who knew each other from prison, some bootleggers, some moonshiners who branched out into drugs, murder, arson, auto theft.
By all accounts, Carl is a good man to have in a fight, if he's on your side.
Give us our money, man. You gotta go, Carl.
He worked closely with Fred to make sure their deals went their way. Clayton County detectives share what they know with their counterparts over in Fayette County. They're still looking for Joe Cleveland in connection with the murder of the second victim, his girlfriend, Liddy Evans. And when they mention Fred's nephew, Carl Patton, alarm bells go off. Turns out, when Liddy's family told detectives she and Joe were going to take a vacation, they mentioned another couple.